How many of you all have had a conversation with a group of people that disagreed with you? How many of you have heard a song we played and pretended to know it for a fear of judgment? I think a good portion of you are nodding. Every time we're in a situation with conflict, we get the urge to attack, reject, and almost cancel others when they do not share the same beliefs. I think at that stage it's important to take a step back and ask, why are we so uncomfortable with differences? These feelings and actions are so common that they're a part of us. Even if we do not verbalize them, our disapproval is at the top of our minds. We not only see this in trivial conversations over a song or a TV show, but also on a larger scale, cultural differences. Those beliefs manifest in the form of microaggressions and alienation. I've experienced my fair share as a daughter of immigrants that has lived 4 years of her life in India. And I've talked to Afghan refugees about their experiences moving. I believe we can all learn to be a bit more accepting of our differences. When I was 5 years old, I moved from Bangalore, India to Seattle, Washington, which is where I live now. And before the move, I was fully adjusted to Indian culture, even though I was born in California. I spoke broken Kannada, I loved the food, and I spent a lot of time with my extended family. I lived a vibrant life there, connecting with my roots, but my parents wanted more opportunities for me. I already attended an international school, but they felt that an education in the US would be more rewarding. And at such a young age, I felt the desire to be like everyone around me, and a large part of that, for me, was my accent. I spoke minimally during my first 2 weeks, observing and adapting my words. Dance had to be dance, and breakfast had to be breakfast. Word by word, I changed, but I could never be perfect. And while this happens less and less now, I still find myself messing up basic words. I said parabola in math class in 7th grade, and everyone laughed and gave me confused looks. It was crystal clear. There was no way for me to live in the US without speaking like others. Today, I look back and think, why did I have to feel this way? Changing certain pronunciations when moving to a new country is natural, but why did I feel the need to practice and practice beforehand? It was as if I was studying for an exam that tested if I was really American, and society just could not welcome the true me. I think that if I had someone to comfort me and say, it's okay to be a little different sometimes, don't be so rigid, maybe I would be more confident. Maybe without those years of insecurity, I would be a different person. I'll give you another example of this. The summer before kindergarten, my mom sent me up for a summer camp at the Boys and Girls Club. I was sitting with all of my new friends when the counselors started playing music. The first song was Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen, and keep in mind this is 2012, so it was very, very popular. So all the kids started singing along, but I just looked around and pretended that I knew it too. I was sure that my friends would think I was weird if I didn't. And at the end of the day, I went home and I asked my dad to play it, and I listened and listened. I took it so seriously. Over the years, I've adjusted to living life here, leaving behind more and more of my Indian ways. I realized that making a life here involves changing who I am, whether I like it or not. And we see this in a lot of different things. Like for holidays. My family doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I always feel out of place in conversations about them. American culture does not consider people who do not celebrate certain holidays or have certain traditions, and I always feel the pressure to adjust and replace old traditions with new ones. I do my best with this battle every single day. Living life here involves changing, whether I like it or not. And these feelings are common. We all fall prey to making others feel the same way. Since September, I've been working with an Afghan refugee every week to teach her English and help her with homework. I've talked to her about her experience, and I see the ways she has to change. She's in 9th grade and came to the United States from Afghanistan around 1 year ago. And in just a year, she's had to adjust so much. She had to cut her name into half of its length in order for her classmates and teachers to pronounce it. Half of her name is half of her identity. This means that at school, she's a different person than she is at home. It should not have to be this way. Working with a refugee opened my eyes to what our society asks of foreigners and helped me reflect on my own experience. Tutoring her has taught me that we are all so frustrated by differences, even myself at times. I've been through it myself, but I still find myself doing it to others. It's difficult to train our minds not to expect adjustment, but we must do so for the good of society. She had never gone to school before she came to the US. She did not have the privilege of an education until 1 year ago. One can only imagine the impact of such a large move after taking her educational background into consideration. Sometimes, when I teach her, her learning speed can be quite slow. I often find myself teaching the same lesson every week and see minimal improvement. It can be discouraging and even frustrating. There are times when I think about how it's even possible that she does not grasp the content. I somehow expect that she should be able to quickly pick up on concepts, even though they're so foreign to her. And in times like those, I need to pause. I need to see that we have different backgrounds, and I should expect her to be different. We're all shaped by dissimilar experiences and need to accept, and it's so easy to push away differences, but we need to catch ourselves in those moments and reevaluate. Now, while eliminating bias and having empathy are not always simple tasks, we need to try to break the barriers between us. Without allowing others to behave differently, we cannot foster inclusion. A review of literature by Camilla Modesti and Alessandro Talamo targets this idea that society has a responsibility to accept. It details the representation of refugees' adjustment in literature and essentially argues that we play an important role in the refugee experience. Modesti and Talamo write, adjustment varies according to the community whereby it takes place. They argue the receptive culture of the resettlement country influences the way refugees adjust. When they say receptive culture, they mean a community that welcomes diversity. Receptive culture is openness to new ideas and people. It's this concept of saying yes to differences. So Modesti and Talamo are saying that refugees adjust differently based on how their community treats them. We have the ability to welcome, and we also have the ability to push away. And depending on the one that we choose, refugees will have an easier or a more difficult time. The authors also write that including or accepting newcomers into a community could improve mental health and foster community cohesion, meaning that our decisions as a community directly impact the health of the refugees as well as the success of all of us. We have the responsibility to welcome newcomers because if we do not, there can be negative impacts. So from all of this information, we can see the importance of welcoming those different from us. Refugees experience displacement in a way different from perhaps other immigrants, but this problem goes way beyond simply moving to a new country. No matter the situation, when our community embraces small and large differences among us, it grows more diverse and kind. Now, the study explored many realms of adjustment, but essentially argued that immigrants may struggle to adjust, but small actions can ease the process and create a stronger community. I hope you can start to see that we have the responsibility to accept and include others, no matter how different they may be. Our behaviors can either foster a culture of kindness or one full of tension and hate. And these are decisions that every single one of us makes each day, whether we realize it or not. We might point out someone's accent or the way they say a word. We might say something along the lines of, "You don't know who this person is?" These actions alienate people and show our desire to push away differences. We should be comfortable with diversity of all kinds. We should be comfortable with those that do not seem to follow our society's norm. Our decisions, each and every thought and phrase, can make the biggest of differences. We could ease a refugee's adjustment process or give someone confidence in themselves. we can contribute to a community that supports, not suppresses. When we disrespect differences, we get rid of the diversity that makes us thrive. Now, it's also important that we're consistent with our actions. We should accept all people and all differences as long as they do not hurt us. It's not something we pick or choose based on the situation, but rather a constant mindset. If I ended with the words, "Be yourself," I know that most of you would cringe and think, "That's so cliche, what is she saying?" Resist that urge, and let's think about it though. Why do we find it so hard to be ourselves? Why are we so scared or embarrassed by even the thought of the phrase? I'm going to leave you with this. If we become comfortable with others showing their true selves, then maybe they will. Maybe the key to an even more connected community is in our hands. It starts with, and I mean it, every single conversation and interaction that we have, big or small. We need to recognize the power of comfort in a diverse society, but also practice it by alienating less and accepting more. Thank you.